With just 2 days remaining until opening day, there are two major mysteries that remain for the Cincinnati Reds. I'll tell you what they are on today's Locked On Reds. Let's go.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker, and I love baseball. I love these Cincinnati Reds, and I have taken my love of the game, my love for these Reds, and I have turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about the two major mysteries that remain for the Cincinnati Reds with just 2 days left until they play ball. We've heard from Frankie Montas yesterday at the unofficial media day out at Great American Ballpark. And I'll tell you why I think he's ready to lead this pitching staff in 2024 based on some of the things he had to say yesterday. And with just 2 days to go, I'm also going to tell you the best Reds player to ever wear the number 2. Before I get into any of that, I want to shout out the sponsor of today's podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the code, all lowercase letters, lockedonmlb for your first deposit match of up to $100. All right, where I want to get started today is talking about the two major mysteries that remain for the Cincinnati Reds heading into the beginning of the 2024 season. Jeff talked to you yesterday, and he told you our schedules haven't lined up exactly as we're getting ready to start the season and get to opening day. I'm actually heading out to Ohio tonight, so things have been a little wonky. So he was alone yesterday, I'm alone today, and he told you about the 25 guys the Reds are taking to Cincinnati and the one remaining roster spot and what he thinks that the Reds should do with it. And really, that roster spot is one of the major remaining mysteries for the Reds. I think what has happened is they've always known who that 26 guy was going to be from the time that they set the roster and packed it up to head back to Cincinnati. I think the reason they didn't announce it is they were giving Nick Krall a little bit of time, or creating a little bit of space for Nick Krall to go out and make some kind of a roster move to get an outfielder like Jeff told you about yesterday. I think that what makes the most sense for the 26th man on this roster is exactly what Jeff said yesterday, is to go out and get Mr. Outside Hire, somebody that didn't make one of the other teams, somebody that is a right-handed outfielder, somebody that could give you some useful major league time while we're waiting for the other players to come back from injury. Now, we haven't heard that move yet, but I'm hoping that later today we will. I think we will learn one way or the other by Wednesday morning what the 26 man on this roster spot looks like. But I think Nick Krall has been working the phone lines. I think he's out there trying to find a deal. And I think what Jeff had to say about why you shouldn't be looking at the free agent list was absolutely spot on, because those guys are not going to be ready to play. They haven't seen any pitches, so to speak, and you can't just throw them onto the major league roster. So it defeats the purpose. They waited too long. Would have been much smarter, I think, to go get Michael Taylor or Adam Duvall earlier when they had the opportunity. That didn't happen. So the Reds are now going to have to bring it down to the wire. And I think that time is running out on that. If we don't hear of a trade sometime today, I think they will announce tomorrow in the morning social media blasts on Wednesday who the 26 man is. It's going to make this ball club. One thing to keep in mind is whoever the 26th, 25th, 24th guys are on these rosters, those spots are temporary, especially the 26th man, because that's going to be the first guy to go when TJ Friedl comes back to the big league roster. And we did hear from David Bell yesterday that TJ Friedl is doing better than expected. And, Jeff and I have both told you, and me especially, I no longer trust anything that David Bell has to say about a player and their injury and their recovery time and when we may see them. David Bell talked about TJ Friedl possibly being ready to go 6 weeks. I think that's an unrealistic timeline when we've already heard from the team and heard from orthopedic specialists that in 3 to 4 weeks, they are going to make an initial evaluation. I saw some video yesterday of TJ Friedl throwing the ball. Obviously the injury is not impacting his throwing hand. So he was throwing the ball on the field, being out there with the guys. I still think that it's going to be mid-June before we see TJ Friedl. And I want to be so wrong about that because this team needs him and they need him in a hurry. But all of these things are interrelated. Who the 26 man is going to be now, what that does to the roster later. Is it somebody they have to make room for on the 40 man? Lots of questions and it's getting close. They're running out of time to figure this stuff out. Now, I did say that there were 2 major mysteries remaining. And this next part might even sound a little conspiracy theorist when I say it out loud, but the mystery of Matt McLain. First, we heard that his shoulder was just precautionary and that he was just going to miss a start or 2 and be right back. Then out of nowhere, we hear that Matt McLain is going to need surgery. They don't tell us why, just that he had an MRI that showed something. He's going to be out for a while and surgery is an option. Then we hear that Matt McLain wants a second opinion while we still haven't heard what the first opinion was. So Matt McLain schedules an appointment, met with an orthopedic shoulder surgery specialist, a famous guy out in LA, met with him yesterday. We have yet to hear what the results of that second opinion were. So there could be a lot of big news today because most of these mysteries could be answered by the time we all talk again on Wednesday. We may know who the 26 man is. We may know the fate of Matt McLain. I'm really, really concerned still that we have not heard what the initial diagnosis was. And I'm really, really concerned that Matt is seeking a second opinion without that information being out. Like I said a few days ago on an episode, you don't seek a second opinion when a guy tells you everything's great. Most guys don't go looking for that bad outcome when they're professional athletes. So the mystery surrounding this 26 spot and the mystery surrounding Matt McLain continue to make me wonder what the Reds are holding back. I wish with the injuries there wasn't so much gamesmanship at the major league level. I get why in football they do this sometimes, but Major League Baseball, it's not a strategic advantage for you to know whether or not Matt McLain's going to have shoulder surgery. Baseball doesn't work like that. So I want the Reds to clarify the roster. Last opening day, we were waiting right down to the wire to find out some guys and who was going to be wearing, what the lineup looked like. I remember going live from the AC across the street from the stadium when we finally got a lineup and had an idea of what things were going to look like. And I'm hoping it's not that last minute. I would really love for the Reds to have this roster set by tomorrow. And then late in the day, maybe we start to get an inkling of what the lineup's going to look like. Probably we won't get it till Thursday morning, but I'm looking forward to baseball and I'm looking forward to these questions being answered and to be able to come talk with you all about what is going on in the field. But these two mysteries continue to concern. They continue to draw our attention. I did see a post from Charlie Goldsmith where he was talking about the 26 man and Matt McLain question could be answered yesterday. And the way that he had to type it for it to be on X, it looked like there was some hope for Matt McLain to be the last guy they named to the roster. I don't think that's the case, guys. And I know some other people read it that way too. I went back and read it again and I can see, where that impression comes from. But again, that was more of a just punctuation issue to get the number of characters on X. Matt McLain's not going to be a surprise announcement for this roster before the season starts. We just don't see that happening. All right. Those are the 2 mysteries, which is this roster, this lineup, and Matt McLain. Like I said yesterday, there was an kind of quasi media day out at Great American Ballpark. Players getting some work in, season ticket holders were in the stadium, lots of activity at Great American Ballpark. And one of the things that happened was the media got to talk to Frankie Montas. And he had some very interesting things to say about being named the opening day starter, about Hunter Green. There was lots of content coming out of Great American Ballpark yesterday, and we are going to get into what Frankie had to say and why I think it makes him a great leader for this team. We're going to get into all of that here in just a minute. Testing my skills with Prize Picks this season is one of the most exciting ways possible for me to play fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn that $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, college basketball entries on Prize Picks today. Because again, they are America's #1 fantasy sports app. You can also put together some Prize Picks with MLB season stats. Prize Picks has Jonathan India's home run total, 17.5. Think I won't be clicking more on that one. I might go less. I don't know that Jonathan India is going to eclipse 17.5. And they also have Alexis Diaz with 32.5 saves. I think I would click more on that one. I think Alexis Diaz is going to blow past 40 saves for the Reds in 2024. If you want to get in on the action, just download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match of up to $100. Again, just download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for up to $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Well, make sure you switch on to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or for free on Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On has you covered with Locked On Sports, 24 streaming sports channel on YouTube and free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, Frankie Montas had a conversation with media members out at Great American Ballpark yesterday, and he was asked about being the opening day starter, and he was asked, what he did when he got the news. And one of the things that he said that he did was he went and talked to Hunter Green and basically told Hunter Green that he's going to have a lot of opening day starts for the Cincinnati Reds in his career, and that Hunter Green should use the fact that he is not the opening day starter this year as fuel to drive himself to be better. And I really dig that Frankie took this approach. He didn't ignore it. He didn't let it fester in the clubhouse. He didn't let there be any animosity between him and Hunter Green. He went directly to Hunter Green and had a talk with him. And I think that says he is going to be the leader of this pitching staff. This is still a very young staff as far as the starters go, and they are going to need someone to guide them. And I think the struggles that Hunter Green has had, not being able to make that level to elite to ace. I think with Nick Lodolo coming off of injury again, I think with Graham Ashcraft trying to be consistent throughout a whole season, I think with Andrew Abbott trying to prove which one is the real Andrew Abbott, none of those guys are naturally in a position to lead this staff. Whereas with Montas, he's been around a long time. He started several opening days. He started out in Oakland. He is a seasoned veteran at this point. And even though he's coming off of the shoulder injury, even though he is going to, have to be careful, I think it just naturally puts him in a position to lead these guys. They're going to be able to learn from him both by watching how he goes about his business and by how he handles situations like that with Hunter Green. Montas wasn't the only one talking out at this media day at Great American Ballpark, Hunter Green also was interviewed, and he was outright asked if he felt like, he was an ace. And his answer was interesting because he says he showed glimpses of it, and I could not agree more. He has showed us several times that he has it within him to be that guy. He has it within him to be that ace. And I really am still very, very high on Hunter Green. And I think with a little bit less pressure on him, being the number 2 in this rotation behind Montas, will allow Hunter to focus on Hunter and his performance and not being the guy to show the others the rest of the way, not being the guy that has to carry the team. And I think by not going up against the other team's number 1 all the time, that's going to help Hunter as well. The way that this rotation has been programmed out, they're bringing 5 starters. Jeff told you this yesterday, that it's going to be Montas and Green in the first 2 games, and they're going to use 5 starters, even though there's an off day built in there. So there's going to be a couple times through this rotation where starters get 6 days of rest. So the matchups aren't going to be quite set. It'll be really interesting to see what they do when Nick Lodolo comes back. I think the answer will be Nick Martinez sliding back into the bullpen, which will make for a lot of hard decisions. I saw some of you guys on X and in the comment sections talking about TJ Antone and how we didn't really expect him to make this team. In fact, I said that if it came down to being a choice between Ian Jabot and TJ Antone, I would almost lean Jabot because I know that he can go out there and give you a 70-game season. We don't know what TJ Antone's arm can hold up to. What I did tell Jeff, and I think I told you all on an episode, was that the best outcome for the Reds might have been for Ian Jabot to start the season on the injured list, which is what is happening, because it allows them to get a look at TJ Antone in big league games with big league workload and see how that arm responds. Is he going to get 5 or 6 games into maximum effort pitching and have a sore arm again like he did last year? Or is he going to be able to move forward? That will let you make a decision with Ian Jabot much easier when he becomes eligible to come off the injured list. Now, look, in a perfect outcome, TJ Antone is ready to go and ready to pitch in 50 or 60 games for the Reds in 2024 and still has something in the tank for the playoffs, and the Reds make a run. TJ Antone, when he is on, is just nasty, incredibly difficult to hit. What he hasn't been able to do is be consistently healthy. When he's in there, he's consistently good. He just can't be consistently healthy. And look, coming off of 2 Tommy John surgeries, that's amazing. I can't say enough about the work that TJ Antone put in to get back to the big league level, to get back to the Reds. If you don't follow TJ on Instagram, you should. He was posting lots and lots of videos over there during his rehab process. And you could see how hard he was working and the amount of time and effort he was putting in to get back to the big leagues. With Antone and Cruz both making this bullpen, hard decisions coming as Sam Mull becomes ready to go back to the active roster, as Ian Jabot comes ready to come back to the active roster. You can see where this is going. We didn't talk about TJ Antone because we didn't anticipate Mull and Jabot both being injured. And yet here we are. The nice thing is this is still an upgraded bullpen. The injuries to the position players have, dampened us a little bit, but the bullpen is better. The starting rotation is better. Frankie Montas and whatever combination comes next, Nick Martinez in there, Lodolo coming back. There is no Overton. There is no Sessa. There is no Weaver. This rotation is better. This bullpen is better. This team is better. And I think that's why I'm still so excited, even with the injuries, even with the suspension to Marte, even with the loss of Matt McLain, even with the injury to TJ Friedel. I think the pitching can keep this team relevant long enough to get some of those guys back. And June can roll around, and if they're still in contention, this team could take off and fly. I'm so excited for opening days, you guys. It's my favorite time of the year. I love being back in the city. I cannot wait to get back to Ohio and watch some baseball live. And it's a whole different team to follow heading into this opening series. I'm looking forward to watching Frankie Montas. I'm looking forward to watching Hunter Green start that second game. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great time at the Ball Yard. Lots of young, exciting players. Little disappointment with some of the guys that are injured, but there's still so much to be excited about. I hope to see each and every one of you down there. There's going to be just an unimaginable energy down at the banks. It's going to be so much energy. I'm going to get down there early. I can't wait to be rolling around the banks, talking baseball with you all and getting ready for this game. All right. As I say, there are just 2 days left until opening day. And coming up, we are going to be talking about the best member of the Cincinnati Reds to ever wear the number 2. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. That's right. You can bet on every single game of the NCAA tournament over at FanDuel, America's number 1 sportsbook. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a number 1 seed, it's time to go dancing over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets back if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 in your account to use on point spreads, money lines, over-unders. You can even pick who you think's going to win it all. They also have some players' futures you can check out over on FanDuel. They have the over-under on the number of homers for Spencer Steer set at 21.5. I would take the over on that. I think Spencer Steer is going to be a 25 home run guy. No, I didn't say 40, and we're not talking about Tyler Stevenson. I think Steer can hit 25. I think I'd take the over at 21.5. If you want to get in on the action, just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. You can follow us in between episodes. You can follow me on X. You can follow me at S Offenbaker. That's with 2 F's. You can follow Jeff at Jeff Carr. That's Jeff with 3 F's. And you can follow the show at Locked On Reds. Also, if you haven't done so, make sure you bookmark InsideTheReds.com. We're going to be writing about the Reds over there all season long. I'll be writing. Jeff will be writing. James Rapine, Caleb Six, Audie Elmore, Rick Uccino is going to be pitching in over there. Lots of great people writing about the Reds, so make sure that you check it out. Also, we want to see you on the Discord server. Our Discord community is great. We watch games over there together and talk about what's going on the field. So many great, insightful Reds fans over there talking baseball. We want you to join us. We want to talk baseball with you. All right. As I mentioned, we are just 2 days away from opening day. That means we get to talk about the best Cincinnati Reds to ever wear the number 2. Recently, that number was worn by the now Texas Ranger, Jose Barrero. Before that, Nick Castellanos, he wore the number 2. Alex Blandino wore it for a couple years. Orlando Cabrera wore it for a year. Alex Gonzalez, Felipe Lopez, Royce Clayton, Todd Walker, prime time Deion Sanders, Gary Redus, Ernie Lombardi all wore the number 2. But the best guy to wear the number 2 for the Reds is the guy that wore it the longest, most consecutive seasons, and that is shortstop Zach Cozart. Zach played for the Reds for 7 years, and while he had his ups and downs, his final year in Cincinnati in 2017 saw him earn himself a spot in the All-Star game. It saw him hit a slash line of 297, 385, 548, and get this, 2017, Zach Cozart's OPS plus was 140. Yes, 40% above league average. That was his best season. And really, he saved the best for last. That was his last year in Cincinnati. He went on to the Los Angeles Angels, and the wheels absolutely fell off for him out there in LA. He played a couple more years, 58 games in 2018. 38 games in 2019, and then he was out of baseball. But during his time with the Reds, he was really, the Reds had a great run of shortstops. They went from Davey Concepcion to Barry Larkin, and it's been not that great since then. And, Zach Cozart provided some consistency for 7 seasons, and that 140 OPS plus, great season. His WAR numbers, not as exciting, folks. Career 14.6 WAR. During his time as a big leaguer, but I think he was the best guy to ever wear the number 2. We will talk, Nick Castellanos wearing number 2. He had 2 good years and a drive to deep left field to make it a 4-0 ball game, but I don't think that makes him the best Red. I love some of the names on this list. Just Alex Blandino, still trying to become a knuckleballer somewhere in baseball, trying to stick around for a while. I hope that happens. I hope he comes back, and we'll talk about Alex Blandino again here in a couple days. Don't want to tip my hat too much on that one, but he's coming back in conversation. Primetime Deion Sanders also wore the number 2 for the Reds. And if you never got to watch Deion play baseball for the Reds, you missed out, because Deion was a lot of fun. And he brought an energy to the Reds that, it was prime time. 4 years total he played for the Reds. And during that time, if you look at his OPS plus, he was 74 OPS plus. He was not that great. He was be a player we'd be talking about. Why is he, on this roster? Why are they keeping him around? But man, he was electric. Generated tons of energy, tons of excitement. Miss players like that. We don't get that a lot. 2-sport player, football and baseball. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. It's hard to do. All right, guys, I appreciate you hanging with me on this solo show. It's always fun talking baseball with you. 2 days remaining coming up on Locked On Reds. Jeff and I will be together again tomorrow. We will start to kind of set the table. Hopefully, we will have Matt McLain news to update you on. Hopefully, we will know who the 26th man is. We will put a show together and catch you up on all of that information. And then we will be in your feeds first thing in the morning on opening day. We are going to have a roundtable conversation with a couple special guests to really get the table set for the excitement that we have, for the energy that's going to be in downtown Cincinnati, for the excitement around this team and what we can expect from the Reds. We're going to gather up all that information. We're going to gather up everything that is going on with this team, and we're going to bring it back to you right here and keep you locked on Reds every single day.